It's on. Okay. Hi, Deb.
Hi, thank you, Reva, for pinch hitting for me. Can you
Okay,
all hear me okay?
I wasn't sure.
I know I was having some trouble. It was a little tight there. All right, so you can hear me all right, I guess. All right, good afternoon. This is Transportation Committee Chair Deb Barber. It is Monday, March 8th, 2021. Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to say a few things about how we are going to conduct this meeting. As we know, Governor Walz has declared a peacetime emergency in response to COVID-19, and the Met Council has determined it's not practical or prudent to conduct an in-person committee meeting for reasons stated in the governor's emergency order. Accordingly, Met Council members will participate in this meeting by phone or other electronic means, and this transportation committee meeting will be conducted under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021. Because we are conducting the meeting electronically, all votes will be taken by roll call. Before we start the meeting, we need to establish whether there's a quorum. With that, Jenna, could you call the roll?
Chambliss,
Here.
Cummings,
Here.
Ferguson,
Here.
Fredson,
Here.
Gonzalez,
Here.
Sterner,
Here.
Zirin, and Barber.
Here. When seeing a quorum present, we can move on with our work for the day. So the first thing is approval of the agenda. If there are no changes or additions to the agenda, we can move on to the minutes. Did anyone have any changes or additions to the agenda? All right. Seeing none, we need to approve the minutes from the February 22nd, 2021 meeting. Does anyone have any changes or additions? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved by Gonzalez.
Moved by Gonzalez. Is there a second?
Chambliss.
Second by Chambliss. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Jenna, could you call the roll?
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings. Cummings? Oh, I see tech issues. Ferguson,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Zirin, and Barber.
Aye. And I see Councilmember Zarin has also voted aye. I believe he's also having some connection issues, as does Molly. And with that, the minutes are approved. The next thing is our TAC reports. We have David Finley here. Welcome, David.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Barber and committee members. David Fenley here, Chair of the Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee. First, I'll update you on things we've been working on in the last month, and then I'll give you an update on some ongoing things we've been working on over the last year, more intensively and just in general for quite a while now. So we've been engaged by Metro Transit yet again and very, very intensely about the replacement of the non-bus vehicles, the kind of the SUV style vehicles that Metro Transit is using for Metro Mobility customers. We've had a couple site visits to look at the vehicles. It's nice to be engaged in that way. Also ongoing work from bus rapid transit lines. And last month we had a nice update, a legislative update on things that are happening at the Met Council up at the Capitol from Brooke Bordson. I think you all may have received a letter that our committee sent to Chair Zelli I would say about 2 or 3 weeks ago regarding the work that TAC has done over the last year to increase the amount of priority seating that are on the buses. I don't think it's necessary to read the whole letter, though I'm happy to if you would like me to. But we have seen both in data and in anecdotal experiences, we've seen the space as not necessarily being enough space for folks with disabilities, and this results in pass-ups of folks. The majority of which are people that are passed up. When this happens, the majority of those folks are wheelchair users. And that's definitely not what we like to see. So about a year ago, we passed a couple resolutions. I think I've updated you on the resolutions we've passed, but this was, the two resolutions were to support the increased amount of priority seating on fixed route buses, and also the support of some sort of awareness campaign. This letter was received very favorably by Chair Zelli, and he responded very quickly, saying that this is currently being addressed, and I was assuming that was going to be the response, since we have been in communication with Metro Transit and the Met Council about this issue. But I think it was just today, actually, I got a draft plan of an awareness campaign with a budget to help make the public aware of what this seating is to be used for, as required by the ADA and the policies that Metro Transit has. That is all I have for you all today. Thank you for your time, and yeah, I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, David. Are there questions from council members? Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. More a comment, Mr. Finley. I so appreciate you updating us on what the TAC is doing. And, you are the liaison, and that is how we know what's going on. And it's really, really important that we are. I don't recall getting this most recent letter. If you could shoot it out again, that would be great. But again, thank you so much. We really appreciate your updates.
Chair Barber, Council Member Cummings, it's my pleasure. Yeah, I'll send it out again.
David, why don't you go ahead and send the letter and the response to Jenna, and she can get us out to all of the transportation committee members to make sure that everybody has a copy of it.
I'd be happy to, Chair.
Yeah, to try and make it easy on you a little bit. Perfect. Thank you so much. Additional questions? Comments? All right, I would just also would like to echo that. Thank you very much for the work that you're doing. The work that you're doing with Metro Transit as you look at the BRT lines, and the work that we're doing as we're looking at planning new services is very helpful. And I think that you've really taken this group to have a good active role, which I think is helpful for all of us. So thank you for your service. All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Anything else? Absolutely. Then we're on to MTS Director Thompson. Director Thompson, will you make a comment about the not streaming our video tonight of what's going on technology-wise?
Yes, Madam Chair, before you came on, we learned that the video stream is not currently working technically. So the public is not being able to watch this tonight. However, it is being recorded and will be posted, so they will have public access to the meeting probably as soon as tomorrow. So for those that are, if you're reached out to, it's a technical difficulty that's impacting the system today. But we'll have it documented.
Thank you.
All right, update on MTS. We continue to work closely with Metro Transit on rolling out, getting ready for the vaccine for public transit workers. We still are waiting on details of when they will be available, but we feel we're prepared, and that includes our suburban transit providers also. We did receive positive news from Ramsey County a little over a week ago that they have determined that they believe that the Metro mobility drivers can be classified as Group 1A when they're providing the medical trips. And through Ramsey County last week, we were able to receive 44 appointments for Metro mobility drivers. So that is good news there. It's in part due to the fact that the day training and habilitation centers that Metro Mobility delivers a lot of passengers to have been deemed in Group 1A also, and the workers there. And so they had started to receive vaccines. So they determined that the drivers who are transporting those customers should fall in that category. We did not get any appointments yet for this week, but we continue to be ready for when that opportunity becomes available. in our current testing, last week was a great week for the contracted transit drivers. We had 0 positive tests of COVID, I think for the first time in several months. And so like a lot of the trends that are occurring, I think they're seeing those positive trends among the contracted workforce. To date, we've had 139 contracted workers of over 2,000 that have tested positive, and all but 4 have returned to work already. So some good news there. We started last Monday the transition of the Metro Mobility Health Essential Workers. We implemented the fares for healthcare workers on Metro Mobility last week, in part because the demand was starting to exceed our capacity. We did see about a 30% reduction in healthcare essential worker trips. In the first few days, we haven't got input from the end of the week, but that still means that we are providing quite a few trips on healthcare workers, even with the fare being implemented. So we will continue to monitor that. And lastly, we started to get some outreach from counties and some nonprofits to see if we had the availability to provide trips for those that are going to get a vaccine appointment. We do feel that between our fixed route system with Metro Transit and MTS and TransitLink and Metro Mobility, we can accommodate a lot of those trips without making any changes, because often you have advance notice for your vaccine appointment. TransitLink and Metro Mobility work well for advanced booking. But if we feel that there's still a need, I think we will have some capacity to provide some of those trips. And we'll coordinate that with those that are working on particularly vaccinations for those that are hard to reach or have really challenging transportation issues. We will step up and meet those needs in the next couple of months, working also with Metro Transit. That, Madam Chair, concludes my remarks. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thompson. Are there any questions from council members? Councilmember Chambliss.
Thanks for that update, Director Thompson. I think it's really great that we are continuing to provide the service and assessing what the needs are. It's very interesting that the healthcare workers are wanting to utilize the service even with an increased cost. I'd like to see how that continues. Maybe that is letting us know that there is a need for access to transportation by some and many healthcare workers. So who knows what we can find out.
Thank you, Councilmember. I think we are learning a lot, and like, what are some new service models we could consider with, especially with a TransitLink or these type of services. Maybe there's some gaps in our system that we can meet, especially for large employment areas where they're all going to a similar area, like as a healthcare campus or a hospital campus has very large workforce, often with some unusual hours, they're 24-hour operation. And so, and we, the good news is we have these customers register with us. And I think we have the ability to follow up with them and learn from them directly what needs did that fulfill. And so I think we'll take your advice there and we'll keep learning from that.
That's great. Thank you so much. You're on mute, Deb.
Sorry. Additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none, move on to Metro Transit General Manager Les Quistra.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'll start again with the COVID update that Metro Transit now has a total of 372 employees who have been diagnosed with COVID since March of 2020. This figure includes 8 new cases since the committee met last February. We're not seeing any patterns of cases in any location, generally spread across our locations. We're also not experiencing any service impacts due to COVID leave. Our latest ridership figures show that ridership remains down about 60% compared to pre-pandemic levels, and I'll continue to remind you that we are still asking riders to use transit for essential only rides. I'm really happy to mention that as the governor announced on Friday, Metro Transit's working with the Minnesota Department of Health to develop and deploy mobile vaccination units. Metro Transit staff has been working hard to assemble the list of materials and has met with the nursing and MDH staff at our overhaul base. They asked us about whether we might be interested to do this, and we were just absolutely excited to provide the assistance and develop a mobile unit capacity. Metro Transit's bus maintenance department is now in the process of fabricating one pilot bus to ensure that everything in the design meets the needs of the nursing and mobile clinic staff. By late spring, the Minnesota Department of Health, MDH, may use up to 6 of Metro Transit's 40-foot buses to transform those into mobile vaccination units. And the buses would be deployed to hard-to-reach populations both across the metro, but also in greater Minnesota. The objective is for these buses to supplement local public health and healthcare efforts to fill vaccine availability gaps, working in coordination with trusted community organizations statewide. So it's an exciting project for us, and we're really just delighted to be part of it and help with respect to reaching hard to serve and hard to reach populations. I'll also remind you that we have quarterly service changes that go into effect on Saturday. Our usual quarterly adjustment will take place on March 13th, and as usual, we're making minor changes to frequency, trip times, and similar tweaks on several routes. One change going into effect on Saturday will be to adjust light rail frequency. Both Blue Line and Green Line will operate weekend schedules all days of the week. So essentially that lines up with what we're seeing in ridership, whereas before we saw 2 peak times at the beginning and end of each day. Now our ridership pattern appears to be similar on weekdays as it is to weekends, so we're adjusting service in that way. Service development is planning a service update information item for an upcoming meeting, and we'll provide a broader overview of our service and our plans for future changes at that time. Also delighted to announce that on March 18th is Driver Appreciation Day. In non-pandemic times, we would be inviting you to join us at each of our garages and rail facilities to share a meal and thank operators for their work. But again, due to the pandemic, we're developing an appreciation video that we'll share with our operators, and on social media. This afternoon, I sent an email to council members. You may have seen it already, inviting you to submit a short video message to our transit operators. Drew Kerr of our communications department has coordinated that effort, and Drew's contact information is in the email that I sent you this afternoon. With that, I'll turn it back to the chair and be available for questions.
Thank you, General Manager. Are there questions from council members? Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wes, can you give us a little update on the charging situation, the chargers that had the issue last week, where we are?
Sure, Madam Chair and Councilmember Cummings. As was the case earlier, and I believe I sent out a fairly extensive email. All the chargers are down. The communication that we've received from New Flyer and Siemens, their subcontractor, is their intent is to replace all chargers, including online chargers, including depot chargers, which we had the serious issues with recently, and online chargers that we've had ongoing issues with. So they're going to be replacing those, or at least that's their proposal. We have to look at their proposal more closely and understand what chargers are replacing, that are being used to replace. But of course, this is all done under warranty, and this is the plan going forward. So we'll be working with them. That really means that the electric bus service will be down for some time. It takes a while to get to remove the current chargers, install the new chargers. Each charger has to be commissioned. So I'm expecting it to be a few months before the electric buses can be returned to service.
Can I ask a follow-up? Thank you. Is this a new issue to New Flyer, or have others experienced whatever caused this issue? Or is this something that it just kind of came out of the blue? Because we've had them for a while now, and I know we've had issues, but nothing quite so extensive.
Madam Chair and Council Member Cummings, I don't have a real good answer for that yet. We're trying to get that answer. This was discovered when Siemens, the subcontractor, came to do some testing, and they opened the casing and saw really changes to the shape of the metal that were in the transformers, which is the primary unit. And I see Councilmember Zirin shaking his head, so he understands this all better than I do. But I understand it's a real serious issue. And they started looking at the other garage chargers and saw the same thing. And I know your question is about whether we're seeing that in other places. I know a lot of the issues that we were challenged with the chargers were experienced by other New Flyer clients. I'm just not sure if this particular issue has been a common issue that they've discovered. And I will look more into that so that when we give the information item on Wednesday, we'll have that information available.
Okay. Additional questions, comments from council members? Councilmember Sterner.
Thank you, Chair Barber. I just was wondering on the other fuel source, do we have other places we can get our diesel from, or are we under contract to get it from one location only, or do we have different places we can obtain it from?
Well, I'm sorry, Chair Barber, Councilmember Sterner. We're under contract to purchase diesel from a particular provider. And this is a question that's come up, I know, recently because of some labor issues that are going on with the fuel source. And our current contract is out, expires in June. So we're in the process of putting together another fuel contract procurement. I have asked ahead of our operations to contact our current contractor and say that, this is not a good situation for us. We hope you can get it resolved, but that's about as far as we can go at this particular moment.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have a follow-up question, but totally unrelated topic. So I did have brought to concern about from one of the operators where like the smoking wasn't being enforced on our trains and that, and then even like the diesel. And I'm just wondering with the new enforcement, do we enforce the smoking policy on our vehicles, whether they're bus or train?
Yeah, Councilmember Chair Barber, Councilmember Sterner, we do enforce smoking on our trains and buses. And one of the challenges we have is that we have 90 trains in service, 90 cars in service, and we can't be at all the cars at once. We have, I think currently we have over 600 or 700 buses in service. I will pass on this concern to Chief Frizzell and let him know that you were contacted about that. We're trying to do better with real-time cameras. We're trying to actually add resources because that's a force multiplier to real-time cameras. We're also looking at how we can use community service officers to create a greater presence on transit. And I'm also really pleased to be able to say that we're seeing some progress and some momentum at the legislature on the administrative citations bill, which we're seeing interest on both sides this year. In the House, last year we had interest on both sides, but in the Senate, there's a desire to work out a compromise between Senator Dibble, who's the DFL author, and Chair Newman, Chair of the Transportation Committee in the Senate. That's all really good signs. I'm going to knock on wood in my office here, but it's all really good sign that we're heading in the right direction there. And that too will create, I think, a greater presence on transit and as importantly, a non-sworn officer presence, which I think is really the right balance of what to do here.
All right, thank you, Manager. Thank you, Chair. I'm complete.
Councilmember Fredson.
Thank you, Sharon. Just to follow up on Councilmember Sterner's point, I mean, from my standpoint, it's not just a labor issue right now. It's also a community safety issue, and I think most relevant to the Met Council would be the infrastructure that we have, whether it's transportation infrastructure, water infrastructure, within close proximity to the St. Paul Park refinery, which I understand is where we're getting our fuel. So I just think it needs to be stated for the record that it's not just a labor issue.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much, Wes. Next, we're on to our consent items. There are 3 items on consent. All of them are tip amendments. If there's no objections to all of these moving on consent, I'd entertain a motion to approve the items on consent.
Cummings moves approval.
Moved by Cummings. Is there a second?
Sterner second.
Seconded by Sterner. Is there any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, Jenna, could you call the roll?
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez. Gonzalez, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Got it. Thank you. Sterner,
Aye.
Zirin,
Zieren's aye.
and Barber.
Aye. With that, the items on consent are approved. Our non-consent items, the first 2 items, number 2021-50 and 2021-51, are both concerning the Orange Line. And we have a presentation here for that tonight. I believe we have Charles Carlson to speak to us. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I will introduce this item, and then Derek Burby will actually go through the construction update. Derek will turn it back to me after pausing for any questions from the committee, and I'll run through the business items, if that sounds like a workable plan to the committee.
Sounds good.
So as the slide comes up, I'll just note that the Metro Orange Line, we were, I think, last in front of the council with a committee of the whole presentation in person just around a year ago. So it's been a quick year of a lot of construction progress in the corridor, and we are preparing to enter revenue service later this year. So really a significant amount of work that is continuing, and we're very excited to bring the service online later this year. So next slide. So just a reminder of the corridor stretches from downtown Minneapolis to Burnsville with 12 stations along the 17-mile corridor. Fully funded, we executed a grant in 2019 for this work, and we've made good use of that grant in pursuing the project where we're now more than 2/3 construction complete by value. So excited for this work to advance, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Derek.
Thank you, Charles, Madam Chair, and committee members. Great to be here this evening, as Charles mentioned, to share an update on the construction of what's been going on with Orange Line and all the progress that's been made over the past year. And I was lucky enough to be there, like Charles said, just over a year ago to present to committee of the whole, to talk through the project and give an update. So I'm excited to do some more information to everybody today. So next slide, please. The project Orange Line itself, from a construction standpoint, is broken down into 3 separate contracts. And I'll walk through each contract themselves as we move through here today. But the first one is as part of the larger MnDOT 35W at 94 downtown to crosstown project that has been in the works and under construction for over 4 years now, just south of downtown on 35W. So great partnership with MnDOT helped us to include quite a few different Orange Line features in that project, one of which is in the image on the right here is the 12th Street bus only ramp into downtown Minneapolis. So that will use the 12th Street and a contraflow lane into the Mark II corridor as buses enter downtown Minneapolis from the south. In addition to that, we also have our Lake Street station in that area. So next slide, please. So those of you that are familiar with the Lake Street area, the images on the right are what our Lake Street 35W bus stop used to look like. You can see the damaged stairs, and the first top image is looking up towards 35W. You can slightly see the shelter in the background that was just off of 35W. Quite a dangerous and very inaccessible facility. The two images on the left side, the top one is a rendering of what the future station will look like. But then on the bottom, you see what the present construction looks like out there. So it's kind of neat to see the two of them together. The lull that's lifting up the worker there is right in the area where a new elevator will bring people up to the 35W level. There's also stairs that bring folks up into a vestibule area prior to walking out to the bus shelter up above, or the bus station up above. Next slide, please. So last time, or one of the last times we had an insights story that was sent out was just over a year ago in the fall of 2019. And here's an image of crews working on placement of our bridge. And the reason we wanted to put this slide in here is to show what's occurred within the last year out there and really give that overall picture. So this was in fall of 2019. You can see crews pouring concrete for our Lake Street Bridge, the transit bridge over Lake Street on 35W level. Next slide, please. And here is looking roughly at that same area, what it looks like recently within the last few weeks out there. If you look on the far end of the image, you can see downtown Minneapolis in the skyline in the background. And the image on the right is right in the center. So the right side of that image is where northbound express buses, not only Orange Line, but all express buses will pull through this station. On the far right side is where those stairs would come up and the elevator would drop riders off on the 35W level. And the left image shows that bus loading area where passengers will be able to hop on the bus, and that one is in the southbound direction. So it kind of gives you a feel of what we have up above on the 35W level. Again, that area will be fully accessible with elevators. There will be 4 elevators, 1 in each quadrant, because if you're on Lake Street level and you go into our north station on the Lake Street level, it would bring you up to either the southbound side or the northbound side, depending upon which elevator you choose, or else you could use the stairs as well. Next slide, please. So here are a few images inside of the north station. This is, again, 35W level. On the right side, you can see where our entrance will be. And as mentioned, if you would like to go up the stairs and go to southbound, you would take a left, and that would bring you up to the southbound loading area. If you'd like to go northbound, you'd go up those stairs and to the right on the right image, and that would take you up to the northbound level. So the picture on the left is just showing the way those stairs would bring you up to that level. And as I mentioned, on the left side of that image, on the left, that catwalk that's showing there, that is bringing people that would utilize the elevator to get up to that level out to the plaza or the loading area above. So the next slide will hop us over to the Knox Avenue construction that started in the late summer of 2019, and we've seen a significant amount of progress on this project. So what we're building here is a new tunnel underneath 494, and if anybody has driven in this area, it hasn't been as impactful for a duration as the 35W at 94 project has been, but it's been under construction for a significant amount of time, like I said, late fall of 2019. So it'll be a transit and as well as a bike and ped connection between Richfield and Bloomington underneath 494. We have a few different facilities in this area, Knox and American Station, as well as a 76 and Knox Station that'll bring people right to Best Buy, as well as the Penn and American District. So the tunnel itself, by utilizing this, again, it'll be a transit-only tunnel, saves 10 minutes from the current routing that we have today using Penn Avenue. And if and when MnDOT builds out the future 35W 494 interchange, we'll be able to bypass that construction progress as it goes to. So the image on the left is an aerial photo from the summer of 2020, so a while ago. And the one on the right is just a rendering of what that will look like when it's all said and done in its final condition. Next slide, please. So this slide here shows again some of that. On the left image, you'll see the north tunnel construction. So roughly the same time frame as the previous slide, but it shows the way that tunnel was being excavated in place. And you can see existing traffic at this time in summer of 2020 was on the south half of 494. And then if you look at the smaller image on the upper right, you can see traffic has been shifted onto the tunnel. So that was later in the fall of 2020. So roughly 6 months ago. With that north half of the tunnel being complete, traffic shifted onto that and utilizing the roadway above. And the image on the bottom right is an image actually inside of that tunnel to show the some of the area, what it looks like under there, some of the form work that we have on the tunnel walls too. So again, that tunnel itself will utilize both a roadway for our buses, but also a bike and ped connection. Next slide, please. So this image here is an image of some of the construction that's been occurring within the last month and a half out there. So the image on the right and on the left actually shows the footings and the foundation for the wall stems that will be built for the south half of the tunnel. So again, in summer, fall of 2020, we built that north half. Now crews have focused on building the south half of the tunnel. So the image on the left shows a pile driver that's driving pile down to help support that tunnel itself. And the green steel that you see, that's the steel that will tie into the walls and ultimately be capped by a tunnel lid prior to building walls and building the earth back onto it. So in the future, this will be an area where eastbound 494 will drive over, as well as any expansion. So, and the next slide we can hop to kind of shifts over to the stations package. So we can hop there. So this slide has a couple different images, and the one on the left was, they're both at the southbound Knox and American station, but the one on the left was getting some of that utility work installed, getting it prepped so that we have our conduits ready for communication, utilizing any utilities out there to power the station and do things like that. But also, as everyone knows, there's utilities that are existing out there that you get to work around. So crews on the left are doing that, and then on the right is actually an image of what that station looked like this winter. Getting prepped and getting ready to start building our steel on top of it. And placing our shelters there. So again, this is southbound at Knox and American. Next slide, please. This slide here shows our Bloomington on the left. It's the Bloomington 98th Street station. So this is a station in Bloomington, and it's a split station where they'll both be along this section of roadway here. And the center is a plaza space that's being used. So people that use the South Bloomington Transit Center can hop onto this plaza, and if you want to go one direction, you would take a left. If you wanted to go the other direction, you would take a right to hop onto our buses. So there'll be a northbound and southbound station there. And the image on the right is near the southern terminus. So this is in Burnsville, at Burnsville, heart of the city. You can see that one is a little bit further behind. That's one of the ones that the contractor wanted to wait on, being as it's further out in the system and not to be utilized by anything really other than Orange Line down in that area. We had the contractor wait and start that work later in the fall, and they'll continue through this spring. So next slide, please. After all the images of construction, we just wanted to add an image of a rendering of what an Orange Line station will look like for those who may not recall. So this is what it'll end up looking like. This is the future 66th Street station in Richfield. A lot of the similar aspects that we have to any other metro lines for our riders, and that's what the final facilities will look like when done in a rendering. So, next slide, please. One thing that's been pretty neat to see during construction. So this is, I like these images because of all the cool construction stuff that it shows going on. Is the Lake Street station was kind of coming out of the ground at 35W level, but one thing we wanted to point out here is all the steel erection on the Lake Street Station project was done by a DBE. They were done by Bald Eagle Structural Steel Company, and their contract was over $3.5 million worth of structural steel construction. So just an opportunity that was given to one of our vendors that it's very neat to see them out on the project and giving them those chances to really put a stamp on our community. Next slide, please. So this slide here also talks about a few different DBE contractors that we have on the separate projects. The one on the left is actually Rice Lake Boring Company. And what they did is where we happen to place our tunnel at Knox and American underneath 494, there also happened to be a very large water line that fed the city of Bloomington. So Rice Lake Boring jack and bored a new 60-inch pipe underneath 494 and then strung a 42-inch water main in there to reroute that water main that used to go where our tunnel was. And that work was of a value over $1.2 million of DBE work, which is fantastic to see. And the image on the right is one of the vendors that gets utilized quite a bit in the DBE world, Safety Signs. For our stations package, they actually have over $250,000 worth of DBE work as part of our stations. So that's just a few of the DBE vendors that we have out on the facility and ones that we wanted to highlight. Next slide, please. So what are our 2021 next steps? Everyone's very excited. The image on the right here again is that North Station lobby, a little bit further along than one of the images earlier. But we're excited to complete the construction of the 35W project. And I know many people that utilize that stretch of road are also very excited for that to be completed here soon. And that Lake Street station is looking to be completed in September. Construction of the stations is planning to be completed the fall of 2021, and then we'll have some commissioning and testing to do. And lastly, in the Knox Avenue project, to finish the walls and the roof on the tunnel, restore 494, bring it back into what its condition was prior for the roadway of 494 itself, as well as the roadway and path underneath 494, and get it again back to the way it was before, as though we were not there. And then revenue and service preparations. So with that, I can take any questions on construction prior to kicking it back to Charles.
Perfect. Thank you, Derek. Are there questions from council members? Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Chair. It's more a comment. I mean, thank you for the presentation. It's an outstanding presentation, but to see such an important addition to the regional transit system is really, really exciting. I mean, our system is building out the way that it's intended to build out so that it is fully functioning, and it's very, we clearly have seen the value in the use of bus rapid transit in our system and how important it is. Certainly this will attract additional transit users. It's really exciting. I always marvel, especially when you show these slides, at how one completes a complex project like this in a thriving, busy metropolitan area, and all of the components that have to come together and digging under 494. I mean, there are just so many things that have to happen. So thank you to the entire team, but this is really, really exciting and fun to see come together, and I can't wait to ride it. So thank you for the presentation. It was just excellent.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember. Additional questions, comments? Councilmember Sterner.
Yeah, so just on your vendor Safety Signs, where are they located from? Where is their corporate headquarters or where they're out of?
Madam Chair and committee member, I will have to double check on that. I know there's a couple different ones, one in the South Metro as well as one in Minneapolis. I can double check on that and get back to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you. All right, any other questions, comments? I'll just make a quick one. It's really great to see all this progress and how far it's come along. So really excited to see this project through to its finish. So with that, I will turn it over to Charles to present the business items.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. These business items are very similar, so I'll run through one of them in a little more detail, and then the recommended action is essentially the same for each one, except different grant amounts for the two counties. So I'll pause in between, and perhaps we can take action on the first one and then the other one, but won't go into detail on the second presentation. So these relate to funding grants from the two project counties, Hennepin County and Dakota County, for the Orange Line to complete 2021 capital project work. So we have a federal grant that's in place, and then that's matched through annual grant agreements with our partner counties on the project. So the proposed action is to apply for, negotiate, and execute those capital grants for the continuation of this work to complete the project here in 2021. Council approval is required as an incoming funding source over $500,000, and this work really supports the efforts we're taking with the Orange Line to connect communities and to advance racial equity by providing new access to destinations along 35W. So this work does not include a DBE goal in of itself because it's incoming funding, but any of the contracts that we have that Derek had mentioned include their own DBE goals. So as we're expending these incoming funds, they would of course be tracked, and we would seek to further that performance as we're working through these contracts. These funds again are for the capital project. They're included in the authorized capital program upon execution of the agreements. So with that, Madam Chair, the first one relates to 2021-50, and that's to authorize the regional administrator to apply for, negotiate, and execute capital grant agreement 21I-013, providing $2,230,109 from the Dakota County Regional Railroad Authority for the Orange Line BRT project.
All right, good. Thank you. Are there questions from council members? Councilmember Chambliss.
Yeah, I know when there were some video difficulties, I wasn't sure how far, what I had missed when I came back on board, but I did have a question, and that is, well, first of all, I was really excited to see what the 35E project, or 35W project looks like. So seeing the updated visuals is very helpful. Secondly, I just had a question about the 35W station area. How is it staffed? How many people are going to be in that station?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Chambliss, just to clarify, the 35W and Lake Street station?
Yes.
Great question, and that's work that is beginning. There wouldn't be a plan that there'd always be a station attendant present, but we're definitely working closely with Metro Transit Police as well as engineering and facilities around how we will continue to monitor and keep up that station on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right. Any additional questions, comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2021-50.
Chair Barbara, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
Well, I just was going to make the motion to approve the item as a Sterner.
Okay. All right, moved by Sterner. Is there a second?
Cummings, second.
Seconded by Cummings. Is there any other discussion? All right, seeing and hearing none. Jenna, could you call the roll, please?
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Zirin, Barber.
Aye. With that,
Aye,
the motion
Zirin.
carries. Oh, Zirin is also an aye, and the motion carries. Next, we're on to business item 2021-51, and back to Charles.
So Madam Chair and council members, 2021-51 is the companion grant from Hennepin County to the one just approved for Dakota County. The recommended action, or the proposed action, is to authorize the regional administrator to apply for, negotiate, and execute capital grant agreement 21I-012, providing $8,040,000 from the Hennepin County Regional Rail Authority for the Orange Line BRT project. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Once again, any questions from council members? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2021-51.
Cummings moves approval.
It's moved by Cummings. Is there a second?
Second by Sterner.
Seconded by Sterner. Is there any other discussion? All right, seeing and hearing none. Jenna, would you call the roll, please?
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Zirin,
Zirin, aye.
Yep. Go ahead, Jenna. Sorry.
Nope, I got both Zirin and Barber. We're good.
Okay. All right. With that, the motion carries. All right. Thank you, Charles and Derek. Appreciate it very much.
Madam Chair, briefly, Safety Signs is based in Lakeville, Minnesota. So that's the answer to the question that Councilmember Sterner asked. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Next, we're on to business item number 2021-52. And we have either Katie Roth or Kyle O'Donnell Burrows. I'm not sure which one of you is presenting the business item. Sorry.
Good evening, council members. Thank you, Chair Barber. I will be presenting tonight's business item. Katie Roth, Assistant Director, BRT Projects. Tonight's action follows directly from the February 24th presentation that I gave to the full council on Network Next arterial BRT outcomes. And the proposed action before you tonight is to adopt the recommendations for arterial BRT expansion resulting from Network Next, naming the Metro F line, Central Avenue, G line, Rice Robert, and H line, Como, Maryland. As you know, Metro Transit has led the Network Next planning process to identify the region's next arterial BRT priorities across the past year, engaging with regional stakeholders and the public, and conducting extensive technical analysis. In February, staff finalized recommendations for the next expansions of the BRT network, which are shown on the map included with the business item. So specifically, the Metro F line will serve the Central Avenue corridor, largely replacing Route 10 from downtown Minneapolis to Northtown via Central and University Avenues. The Metro G line will serve the Rice-Robert corridor, running from West St. Paul to Little Canada via Rice and Robert Streets and replacing portions of Route 62 and 68. And the Metro H line will serve the Como, Maryland corridor from downtown Minneapolis to Sunray Transit Center in St. Paul via Como Avenue and Maryland Avenue, replacing and extending Route 3. Now, this action would establish these corridors as the F, G, and H lines to be advanced in alphabetical order following the E line. Pending full funding, we would plan to begin construction on the F line in 2025 and have all 3 lines operational by 2030. Naming these lines also allows for staff to advance project development and coordination, importantly, with street projects led by our local partners. These priorities would be reflected in the TPP through future amendment, and through coordination with MTS, we'd anticipate this advancing in fall of 2021. As you know, Network Next has been centered on guiding principles that are derived from Thrive policy. And specifically, equity has been woven into the engagement process, the evaluation, and is reflected in the expansion and transit access for BIPOC that would grow from these 3 additional corridors. The prosperity outcome is reflected in the balance of the F, G, and H lines across the region. And stewardship is advanced by prioritizing the F, G, and H lines where development patterns support that level of transit investment. This action does not attach funding to these lines, but identifying the F, G, and H lines does allow for funding to be pursued for the growing program of arterial BRT projects that form a major part of our region's transit vision and are derived from the robust process that's been supported by our stakeholders. So once again, tonight's action requests that the council adopt the recommendations for arterial BRT expansion resulting from Network Next, naming the Metro F line, Central Avenue, G line, Rice Robert, and H line, Como, Maryland. And with that, I will entertain any questions.
Thank you very much, Katie. Are there questions from council members? Any comments? I know we've seen this one, Councilmember Chambliss.
Yeah, we've seen this many times. It's so great to see from start to finish this process of advancing the ABRT lines and allowing people who really rely on transportation to get to their destinations quickly and reliably. That's going to help them to retain their jobs, and it's just going to create a more robust transportation system across the region. So this is very exciting for me, and I'm sure the rest of the council members as well.
And I will note that Councilmember Fredson from the East Side gave a big thumbs up. So yes, I think there's a broad ranging support for what we're doing here. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2021-52.
Chambliss moves.
Moved by Chambliss. Is there a second?
Fredson will second.
Seconded by Fredson. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Jenna, could you call the roll, please?
Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Fredson,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Zirin,
Zirin says aye.
and Barber. Thank you.
Aye. And with that, the motion carries. And I'm going to say it one more time. Thank you to our ABRT, Katie and team, all of you guys. It's just, this is some of the fun stuff when you get to do these big projects and see things moving forward. So thank you. All right, with that, that actually concludes our business for the evening. So we can end early on a really lovely day. I think all three business items should proceed non-consent to council. I think if we get it, I will speak with the chair to see if we could even potentially have some of that orange line update for the full council. I think that might be good timing just because there's a lot has happened with it over the last year. There's a lot of great progress and it is a good story, opportunity to, share with the rest of our fellow council members. So if you guys agree with that, that's what I'll try and propose. Perfect. All right. As nobody has anything else, all right, then we can be adjourned. Thank you all. Enjoy your evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.